situations where in Soka, or rather in Nigeria, the Catholic Church would impose heavy levies on bereaved families, right, in order to have their funerals and so forth. But what was the circumstance, right, that led you to?
I think I had my first, I guess we could call it running, with oppressive Catholic hierarchy. So I've been away for a while. I left Nigeria when I was 19 to come to the US to go to college. Actually, I left Nigeria because I was supposed to be a doctor, and after 1 year of medicine, I fled. Yeah, so I came, so the US was sort of my savior. So I came to the US and just, all I wanted was to do anything that was not in science, because I was so sick of the sciences. And so I was in the US for a few years before I went back home to see my parents, and I realized the church had really changed, and so there were men sort of positioned at the entrance of the church, and their job was to examine what women were wearing. And so for the sin of exposing your arm, you could be sent out unless you got a shawl. And actually, there were people who had extra shawls to hand to women so they could wrap themselves up. And I was just horrified by this. And so I wrote about it. And I wrote about it thinking, I'm speaking up for the masses. This is wrong. Women are being harassed in church. Sometimes a woman would go to receive communion, and the priest would look at her and be like, that top is sleeveless. You can't get communion, go back. But I was shocked by I thought that, people would complain about it quietly. So when I wrote about it, I thought, right now we can rise up and say no, but no. People actually said, why did you write about it? You should keep it quiet, you shouldn't let people know what's going on. And then, but that passed, but the more, I think, consequential was after my father died. And to have the funeral, that's when I really started to realize the depth of just, I think, the rot that you, it's actually a bit emotional for me, so I don't, but really just the idea that in order to get a priest to come and bury your parent, you're expected to pay all kinds of things, and they just make all kinds of demands on you. And then I started to hear other stories from people that just felt so, just utterly unchristian. Families who would say, the priest, on the day of the funeral, the priest said, we owe 10,000 naira more, so he's not coming. But by the way, the coffin is already out there, that kind of thing. And I was horrified by it.
Yeah. I will open up the floor for Q&As, but one last question or comment from you, and that's to do with this moment that we live in, right? You're a writer, you're a citizen of Nigeria and the world, and you look at the politics, of today. What do you do, right, as a writer and as a citizen of the world? How do you think about writing in this moment?
I think for me they're two very separate things. So my fiction writing is really in many ways completely disconnected from anything. It's sort of me floating in the air and being suspended. But the other side, which is the citizen side of me, is that I exist in a perpetual state of rage. It's true. And that I do not want to stop existing in that state of rage. Because I think it's what keeps you, in some ways, at least for me, it keeps me from sort of succumbing to despair. I can't afford despair. I have to believe that there is hope for Nigeria. There are many other things I'm enraged about. Let's not get started about women in the world. But what's happening in Nigeria is quite simple. We had an election in February that was deeply flawed. And we have a person who we've been told is a winner who did not win the election. And and this has been shown over and over. There's evidence for this. I think that we have a generation of young people who are increasingly disillusioned because they had such faith in this past election. And so for me, it's simply that I am enraged, but also that I am not letting go of hope.
fantastic. Well, I am not letting go of hope either. And so we should enjoy and really invest in this collective rage about so much that is happening in our world today and hope for the better. Well, let's take some questions from the audience.